fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. Every 3 weeks we go racing in a field of fixed setup Porsche 911 RSRs for Southern Cross Esports. It's the 7th round of the V8 Drive Day Southern Cross Esports Championship Series, and we're in virtual Belgium, the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps playing host to the 7th round of this series. Looking forward to 2 races tonight of intense racing action. It's going to be fantastic. To bring it to you all live here on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, with Dan Yeaman alongside me in the commentary box, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes on production, bringing you these pictures on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Well, Dan, Spa, what a fantastic circuit. One of the most famous racetracks in the world. There's no such thing as a bad race here, unless you're talking about the Belgian Grand Prix last year, of course.
It's a good way to put it, indeed. And well, for myself, thank you to those joining us here tonight for the broadcast, whether you're joining us after the fact with the archive of the stream over on the SimSpeed YouTube channel. Good to be here with you for this one. And well, not only that, but also the penultimate round of this series here, thanks to V8 Drive Day Perth and Southern Cross Esports. But yeah, turning our attention back to the circuit, of course, Spa-Francorchamps. We're in GT cars tonight, and well, this is one of the great homes of sports car and endurance racing around the world here. And of course, over the years has seen plenty of updates and changes to its configuration. Currently on a layout that was in use from 2007 through to 2021 here on the iRacing platform here tonight. We're also using the Grand Prix pits, so nice and short pit lane transit times tonight. Thankfully, don't need to go through something like the endurance configuration, because that would truly be quite a bit of pain here for these guys tonight if that was the case, given the pit stop requirements later on this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. This track is 7Ks long, and there's plenty of flat-out opportunities. The Eau Rouge Radillon complex may be an ever so slight lift in these Porsche 911 RSRs, but a very fearsome corner indeed. And there's plenty of opportunities for overtaking at the end of the Kemmel Straight, into turn 1 at La Source, and into the chicane at the end of the lap. You might even see some passes into Le Fagné and Campus over on the right side of your screen. Well, the drivers are in qualifying at the moment, but before we get into the racing action here tonight, we should take a look at the championship standings, because with just a couple rounds to go, it looks like it's between Tyson Broad and Gianni Lutzu. Tyson, the championship leader by 20-something points, and they have a nice gap ahead to the likes of Trevor Hearn and Brodie Watts.
They do indeed. All things considered, given the form we've seen this season so far, it should be a 2-horse race to the end of this one here. 4 races, 2 rounds remaining to decide who walks away the championship winner of this series. And we'll find that out in 3 weeks' time when we return to the Mount Panorama circuit for that finale. But you can see there the fight for third is also on, with Trevor Hearn there only 32 points ahead, 42 points, apologies, ahead of Brodie Watts. And then there's still a small gap back to Mike Pepper, so realistically 3 cars in it probably for a fight there over that final podium spot. And then Kyle Ridley more probably looking to have to look behind to hang on to P6 ahead of Anthony Jewell. Oliver and Cameron Edwards, a single point between the two of them there over 8th place. Now Alexani looking a little bit adrift there in P10 relative to the drivers ahead at this stage. But still plenty of points up for offer, Reese, and well, that could change if someone has a bad one here. How close we are to the end of it all.
Yeah, indeed. Well, here's the format for tonight. 20 minutes for race 1 and 40 minutes for race 2, with a reverse top 12 from the finishing order of race 1 and a compulsory pit stop for 4 tyres. And you have to complete that pit stop after the first 5 minutes of the race have transpired and before there's 5 minutes to go. There's a nice big field of cars out there here, and looks like there's going to be somewhere around 20 to 22 cars out there at the moment, and it's a 15-minute qualifying session that the drivers are right in the middle of now. Chris Noble in car 122 is on provisional pole position, 2-minute 13.729. The fastest lap we saw in practice was a 2-minute 13.98 from Gianni Lutsu, so the qualifying pace is already looking much quicker than practice.
Yeah, wouldn't be too surprised with a couple of drivers holding back a little bit early on, but also power at the slipstream is going to be critical here. Fixed setup, as you mentioned, Reese, but add to that, it's the iRacing high downforce configuration that is required or is in use for this series. And well, given the nature of this track being quite the speed circuit here, in fact, we get a 7-kilometre course done in just over 2 minutes in these cars here. They'll be a little bit speed limited, obviously, into the bus stop chicane and down the end of the Camel Straight, but that means getting that toe is going to be oh so important. And you'll see plenty of teammates lining up nose to tail here for the remainder of this session tonight. Just check out the onboard here with Barry Punter in the 440 V-Race machine. Unfortunately, though, for Barry, no time on the board as of yet. Looks to be getting an off-track here or there so far, so he's one of a handful yet to get that number on the board. But there are 16 people, drivers I should say, with times on the board. You can see them there on the left of the screen as we check out one of those drivers here, Peter Biancucci in the number 50 machine here, coming up to Blanchimont to, well, who personal best on this lap. Reese might be able to improve here in the final couple of sectors.
Yeah, we'll see what Mr. Biancucci in car number 50 can do. He was down the order in practice, but we'll see what he can do. 2:15.8 is his fastest time in practice. Can he improve on the 2:17? He's got on the board now. Looks like he can. Back into the 2:15s, and he'll have a little bit of a slipstream up ahead of him. He's got Justin McLean and Lachlan Capel, who's come out for a steer in the Drop Bear Motorsports car. But Gianni Lutsu, second place in the championship. He is looking to get that pole position from Tyson Broad, coming through Blanchimont, a very hard corner to get right. It is flat out in these cars, maybe just an ever so slight lift, but the car is right on the edge of adhesion through there, and the heavy braking zone into the chicane, the first of those corners is off camber, and you've got to get the traction just right out of the final corner. 2-minute 13, no, 2-minute 14.0 there for Gianni Lutsu. That puts him P3 behind Noble and Cable.
Yeah, it's looking fairly close at the top of the charts. I mean, we do have Chris Noble, Lachlan Capel, nothing in it between them at this stage. And then the next group of cars there, we're talking about a 10th covering, well, just over a 10th, I should say, covering 4 cars. It's nice and tight there. Rows 2 and 3 back. Checking in once again with Barry Punter. 3 personal bests on this lap. Hopefully hasn't put one off the road on this one, because he's just got to get this one to the end and at least get one on the board to try and wrap things up. It's not going to be a quick one, it seems, for Barry here, but at least something is better than nothing as he comes to the line. 2:19.35 was valid. Unfortunately, takes him to 20th out of 23, or pardon me, 22 drivers here tonight in the Porsche 911 RSR. As, speaking of that, Drop Beggio, Capel and Broad out on track. Moment coming up to Blanchimont. Interesting to see here, Capel, new to the series. For this one tonight, not currently in the tow position, currently being towed around by a teammate and championship contender, Mr. Tyson Broad, here as they come up to the bus stop. And looks like they will do an exchange here, though, to try and reset and go again. Now, for this next one, give Tyson the advantage for the lap to come here, as out of the bus stop chicane, pushing the limits there was Lachlan Capel, but looks to be in control. Unfortunately, though, not an improvement on what he's done already in this session. 2:13.92 versus an 8:13. Just on the leveler.
Indeed, there was an improvement back in the field. Ray Oliver going up to 14th in the 2:24, but now, well, there is Oliver just up ahead of these guys. Not too bad there from Ray. A consistent competitor in this series, but bad luck has befallen him more than once this season. He'll be hoping to get some good results on the board here in the final 2 rounds, but he is right in the tow there. It looks like one of the V-Race cars going slow at the end of the Kennel Straight. That's Barry Punter there on a cool-down lap at the moment, but he pops out of the way of that trio. And Capel now giving the tow to Tyson Broad. This is some good teamwork from the Drop Bear cars, and I think a good decision there to bring Lachlan Capel in here for the last couple of rounds to give Tyson Broad a little bit of assistance, give him as much of an advantage as he possibly can over Gianni Lutsu. He needs it here in qualifying because currently Lutsu's still in 3rd, but Watts is in 4th. And there's only 0.02 of a second separating him from his championship rival. So if Tyson can stay within the margin here and get a little bit of slipstream off Lachlan Capel, he's still somewhat within draft range. It will be interesting to see if he can improve. I love these corners. Fanye coming into Campus Corner. Interesting to see that Broad wasn't taking all of the curve on the exit there. Looks like he's taking it quite easy here on this lap. Maybe he's just decided to throw it off for the time being, probably not improving, so he'll bring it back into the pits and have another go, but he's going to have to do it quickly because there's only 3.5 minutes remaining in the session. And actually, if you go back to the pits and begin a lap now, you won't be able to complete it. We're using the heat session for these events, which means that qualifying is a hard cut right at the end. You have to start your final lap with about 2 minutes and 15 seconds remaining if you want to get across the line.
That is very true and important to note here tonight indeed. So, one of the drivers who's had good pace for the most part this season, Kyle Ridley, you see here, he had 2 personal bests at the start of the lap, but no tow here towards the end of it as he comes up to the bus stop chicane. The cars here queuing up, which makes for a bit of traffic in the lap, but doesn't look to have hurt him too much here as he'll put through the bus stop and bring it out the other side. Unfortunately, though, that's not going to be a fast lap from him here, although time, as you said, this will be his one and final chance to improve on the board. What it has done, though, is, well, Tyson Broad, having backed off there at the end of that last lap, has decided to slot in behind him, try and get the run through the opening sector. The only problem might just be if Carl doesn't have the pace in the mid-sector. Could see. He'll get held up. One of the other drivers here on the lap, Ben Breyer in the number 58 machine, currently P11, 2:14.92. That
Doesn't look like a counter.
It does.
Yeah. Proved on
time,
time, but not position.
Indeed, there we go. Yeah, so keeping our eyes on now, and I believe that'll be just about it. David Hughes, last car across the line in the 75 machine.
He just improved on that lap.
He'll get time to complete the lap that he's on. So this is it in terms of people that we can track, at least the last of those in the train. Tyson Broad abandoning the lap meanwhile.
He's
the
done.
radio button for him, but no, he's done. Gianni Lutsu and Sean McNamara into the pits. They're not going to improve here, and well, 9.5 SimSport pair, despite the fact that Gianni isn't quite running one of the 9.5 paint jobs. They've been working together in qualifying tonight, but they're a little bit apart, but likewise, same with the drop bear pair. So teammates they may be, but not really seeing the teammate pairs coming out on top here in qualifying so far. That still goes to Chris Noble in that 1-2-2 machine. Where are you, Ray Oliver? P16 currently for the 224. Unfortunately, no green sectors this time round. A little wide at the apex, and he chooses to abandon the run here. So he will start no better than 16th. Cars on track. Barry Punter in the 440 is going to come across the line now. Any sign of improvement for him? Indeed, it is a 2:18.7 for Punter. Capel directly behind, unable to improve, and drops further on back. But he will start at least from second. No better, I should say, in the second. And well, Lutsu is in the lane. Brody Watts, though, in the number 2. What can he do here, Reese?
Not an improvement.
Unfortunately, no.
But there are some big improvements for Trevor Hearn and Jesse Butler. Hearn just going to 3rd. That's a fantastic performance. And Butler promoting himself up to 8th. Travis Dinan out of the final corner then. 17th for him at the moment. And he does not improve, unfortunately. There's a 2:18.8. And Biancucci is not able to improve either. Cameron Edwards, though. Oh, he does indeed.
Time-wise.
Yes. And Cameron Edwards goes from 15th to 13th. Right at the end. Nice improvement there for him to 15.1. So that is the end of qualifying. We can get into the grid now for the first race of the night. A 20-minute out-and-out sprint here for the Southern Cross Esports V8 Drive Day Perth Championship Series. It's Chris Noble on pole position. Lachlan Capel, though, shadowing him. Great performance there in the 118. Trevor Hearn, late improvement in qualifying. He starts 3rd alongside championship leader Gianni Lutzu. Brody Watts and Tyson Broad will round out the top 6. Sean McNamara puts the 9.5 car into 7th place, starting alongside Jesse Butler, with Kyle Ridley and David Hughes rounding out the top 10. Justin McLean and Ben Breyer are 11th and 12th.
Row number 7 tonight for the first race will be shared by Cameron Edwards and Neil Woodburn there in the 46 and 663 machines respectively. And then it's going to be Sam Darua and Ray Oliver in behind 15th and 16th place for those two drivers to start this one off. Peter Biancucci and Francis de Boer off of the 9th row here tonight. And then Nathaniel Coburn, Dean Hunter ran at your top 20 in your final 2 cars to make it a 22 driver grid is Travis Dinan and Barry Punter. So that is our 11 rows of racing. Higgins, Sutton Baker standing by in the Porsche Cayman GT4 as the race control and safety car if need be for either of these races tonight. And we have seen safety car used a couple of times so far this season, so don't count out its attendance. A reminder there of the racing format tonight: 20-minute sprint, 40-minute feature later on, compulsory pit stop for 4 tyres in that feature race, and an inverted top 12. Start that one off based on the results here from the heat race. Well, it's going to be I'm pretty sure a high draft race tonight. As I was saying, high downforce configuration that these drivers are locked to with the fixed setup race. It's going to mean that any drivers who step out from the slipstream are going to really feel like they're driving into a bit of a brick wall. Might even see cars stall out of air based on what happens when they come off of the come out of the slipstream. But we'll have to wait and see how it plays out in racing conditions as we get this thankfully abbreviated pace lap underway here.
Yep, short pace lap being used here at Spa, because a full pace lap around the 7Ks of this track would just take too long. We'd be having a little bit of dead air here on SimSpeed, I believe, if that were the case. But they only have to negotiate Blanchimont and the chicane on their way through to take the race start. So here we go then. Danger points are at Eau Rouge on lap 1 and at the end of the Kemmel Straight. We'll make sure that you give each other plenty of room and be very careful on the way through here on lap 1. Noble starts on pole. When does he decide to go? He's going to back them up a little bit here before the green flag flies, but he is away. And I tell you what, that has given a great start to Trevor Hearn, and he's already taken second from Lachlan Capel on the way into turn 1, but to the inside goes Gianni Lutzu, almost making it 3 wide there as he tries to get into the top 3. Unfortunately fails, but he'll have plenty of opportunities there in the future. A nice clean start for everyone through La Source, but now we get to Eau Rouge and Radillon. This is a very difficult sequence of corners. It looks like the drivers at the top of the field giving each other a good amount of space here and trying to get past Brody Watts' Tyson Broad. There's only one car separating him from Lutzu. And here to the inside goes Chris Noble. And have a look at Lachlan Capel. He's going to make it 3 wide to try to go for the lead on the way into Lacombe and gets it done. There goes Trevor Hearn plus Chris Noble. Fantastic exchange there for the top 3 positions. And now we get into the meat of the lap here, Dan. It's time for the twisty middle sector.
Here we go into trouble immediately at Bruxelles. Brody Watts around contact with Jesse Butler. Unfortunately, the top 6 having almost broken away. Got caught up at Lacombe and Malmedy, and it caught everyone back. And it has come undone immediately there for one of the drivers, Brody Watts, unfortunately the victim of that, unfolding as it did. We'll see how quickly race control is on that one there. A little bit of a wobble there from Tyson Board, the back of the top 5 now out of Pumon there, but gathers it back up without too much fuss. Thankfully, in behind his championship contender in Gianni Lutsu. But both of them will be looking to make their way up the order. And now onto the second straightaway section. Well, not straightaway, I should say, but the second power section of the circuit. The run, of course, up through Blanchimont to the bus stop chicane. And look at this, Lutsu all over the back of your pole sitter, Chris Noble, as they head to Blanchimont for the first time here. But he's on alongside with a single file for your top 5. And then some as they come through here. But to the bus stop we come. Trevor Hearn covering a little bit there, but it allows the door wide open. Gianni Lutsu is up the inside of Noble, and he's almost pressuring Hearn there for P2 as Tyson Moore tries to get the over-under on the exit of the chicane, but he's not going to get that done. And another car back in between him and Lutsu once again here at the end of lap 1.
Well, aside from that incident that involved Butler and Watts, it was a pretty clean first lap there, and the drivers are keeping it nice and safe and orderly. Let's see how they go then for the next few laps of this race. Our first decision from race control has come in. Jesse Butler has been black flagged for that incident with Brody Watts. Watts apparently, trying to go for the inside there, but Butler turned in on him, I believe. So that's the logic behind that. Oh, problems for Ray Oliver and Dean Hunt. And oh dear, that's at the exit of Radion. Oh, goodness gracious. There has been a massive coming together there. And who's that going wide? Trevor Hearn at Lacombe. He has lost bulk positions. He's gone down to 8th now. So we've got a little bit to dissect here already.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Just check Trevor Hearn completely locks it up, gets the right front locked under brakes into Lacombe and up on the outside edge of the curb. As a result, has to escape to the runoff. It's going to go to the replay thanks to Virtual Racing School to see it for ourselves here on screen. Watch for Hearn there, sitting in P2. Lutsu pulls to the inside, but just under brakes here. A fraction too late with no ABS in these cars. Pinches the inside front tyre and has to abandon and run away through the asphalt. Makes the rejoin. Meanwhile, Dean Hunt and Ray Oliver out of this unfortunately. Ray Oliver up ahead. Oh, that looks like Peter Biancucci's gotten together with, and unfortunately for Dean Hunt, absolutely collected by the out of control Oliver at that point. And not much he could have done. He tried to dodge that one, but it's come unstuck at high speed as we see it again on board from Hunt.
Yeah, oh man, that is such a shame. That's the big danger of that part of the circuit. Narrows up quite a bit, the walls. You don't have much space either side. That was all started when Ray Oliver and Peter Biancucci were going side by side through Radion, and I think a little bit of understeer for Biancucci or Ray Oliver turning in a little bit too much just resulted in side-by-side contact. So very unfortunate there as Jesse Butler comes into the pits to serve his black flag from race control. An unfortunate set of circumstances for him. He's going to drop almost to the complete back of the field. Meanwhile, let's check out a Virtual Racing School replay to see. I think this is Dean Hunt again. No, unfortunately we weren't able to quite get that replay. So we'll see then how things work out for these guys.
Yeah, Brody Watts' car has picked up some substantial damage at some point.
He's come into the pits.
Indeed he has, and he was the car that we just saw on that replay for a moment there. Oh dear, Brody Watts has gotten entangled with a car back on lap 2 at No Name, Jackie X. And dear, Peter Biancucci and Barry Punter, an accident ahead of him that entangles the number 2 machine and unfortunately drives into the scene of the accident with little time. Before what happens, here it is on the replay now. Thanks to Virtual Racing School, and tries to pick the gap, Reese, but unfortunately the cars slide back in and shut that gap just as he goes for it here.
Yeah, we'll check out Biancucci here. He was already having a pretty difficult lap here, but you'll see that he goes over the curb and slides, and poor Barry Punter is collected by Biancucci coming back onto the track, and in comes Watts. So very unfortunate. A couple of innocent victims in that. But Biancucci has come into the pits. He's gotten his fast repair done. So has Brody Watts and Barry Punter, and they're back out onto the racetrack. Meanwhile, we ride on board here with Gianni Lutsu, who's worked his way up into second. and is trying to line up Lachlan Capel here for the race lead. Tyson Broad is still back and forth, and he is quite a bit off the pack here for the top 3 places. He's almost a full second behind Chris Noble in third, so he'll be struggling to catch a little bit of slipstream there. That's going to be music to Gianni Lutsu's ears. He's got a buffer between himself and his championship rival. Remember, there's only about 25 points separating those two at the top of the standings, and Lutsu is the trailing driver, so any extra positions he can make up over Tyson Broad will pay dividends when they come to the finale at Mount Panorama.
That is very true indeed. The margin coming in tonight, 27 points indeed. And as they currently run, if the checkered flag was to fly all of a sudden quite early, and into there in P2, we'd pick up an additional 7 points on Tyson Broad to help close that down to a 20-point gap, as there is 60 points up for the race winner tonight in this first one, 120 points up for grabs in race 2. So still over 360 points maximum for the race winners if you were to get a clean sweep from here to the end of the season at Bathurst next time out. But, well, still all to play for here. And speaking of drivers playing for here at the moment, Cameron Edwards in P6 here, currently trying to fend off Justin McLean and Kyle Ridley. And the group now spans all the way back to Ben Breyer in 11th place. So 6 cars there all lined up in a row. Let's check out another report here thanks to Virtual Race. Unfortunately, looks like trouble for Nathaniel Coburn and Jesse Butler further on back at the end of the Camel Straight. No, pardon me, Coburn's directly ahead in that heel and grey car. Locks the brakes at Lecomte and goes skittering across the grass. Thankfully, no one involved. Just a bit of lost time and positions for that one there.
Yes, well, fortunate there. Let's see then what Gianni Lutsu can do to try and get the lead here over Lachlan Capel. It seems that, you know, we did allude to the high downforce fixed setup in this series, making it very beneficial to be the car in the tow. And it seems that Lachlan Capel has held on very nicely to the lead, but Gianni is starting to reel him in here. Let's see if he goes to the inside. He won't be able to. Middle of the road defense there from Lachlan Capel. He's trying to hold up Gianni Lutsu, I think, to give a bit more of a chance for Tyson Broad to catch up. But again, Broad is still over a second behind Chris Noble in third. So he's not making much of an impression on this top 2 battle at the moment. Let's put down the power out of La Source and go flat out all the way up to Lecomte corner as this battle for 6th continues. Cameron Edwards has had a very good opening salvo of this race. Remember, he started in 13th. But have a look at the run up the hill here for Gianni Lutsu. If you can nail the line through a Rouge and Radillon, you get a massive speed boost on the way down the Kemmel Straight. Lachlan Capel has no answer to this unless they get to the braking zone and he goes for it. But no, he's going to slot in behind Gianni Lutsu, and that is a change for the race lead. Edwards, meanwhile, in trouble. Justin McLean's going to try and take him around the outside, coming into Lecomte. That's one of those corners where you can definitely make a move if you're on the outside coming in.
Yep, that was a nice run down the Kemmel Straight there from McLean, and able to get clear of Edwards, who didn't pressure too hard at that point. We are only just halfway into this one here tonight, in this first heat race at least, group. So playing the longer game, it seems, is Cameron Edwards, and keep the car alive and fight another day. Not the worst idea. I'd suggest, as well, as they make their way down through Toulon for the moment. Look here at the lap time up on the board. We're into the race session versus what we're seeing in qualifying, and their times definitely often, I think realistically, what I'm seeing here at the moment, and she just says that Lachlan Capel, of all the drivers in the top half of the field, the lone driver inside the top 10, let alone top 13, yet to set a valid fastest lap time history and trying to push that car around the circuit, and taking a couple of liberal off tracks, it seems, for this one so far. As once again, Edwards now on the back bumper of McLean. Up to Blanchimont we go, side by side between the two of them. Going to send McLean out past the exit curve, but no change in position. Edwards tucks back in, it seems. But round the outside this time for Edwards, under brakes at the bus stop chicane. going to get the job done and parks on the apex, takes a bit of a tap to the diffuser for his troubles, but gets that P6 back with a very well-executed move there, Reese.
That was fantastic. Brilliant racing there from Cam Edwards. At least when you get to the chicane, you could argue that he put Justin McLean on the back foot there by trying to go up the inside into Blanchimont, but superior braking performance on the racing line into the chicane sealed that for him. These guys are a long way behind fifth, so all they have to battle with is each other. So almost side-by-side potential here between Kyle Ridley and David Hughes. Let's see what the 27 and the 75 can do here as Hughes goes to the inside and Edwards is defensive versus McLean once again. Very deep on the brakes, and looks like having to yield there is David Hughes, but this battle is going to keep going, something fierce. Look at this, it's brought Trevor Hearn right into it. Remember, Hearn was the car that started third, so he's going to be trying to make up places and take advantage of all this fighting ahead.
He's certainly looking to try and get back up towards the front, but not able to make an impact just yet here. Still running there, as you say, in 10th place as they make their way down to Pouon once more. Here, 6th lap of the race done so far. Looks like we're going to be on for a 10 lap, pardon me, it'll be a 9 lap race according to my timing so far in this one. Okay, then they've made it down through there in the Fangna chicane before they'll make it down here to where these leaders are once again. Exiting out through Curve Frere and making the run up towards Chimon and the bus stop again. And yeah, look at that there. Tyson Boyd's got absolutely nothing for the top three, unable to. Well, Slipstream is just pulling second and third along, and as a result, Johnny Lutsu has got good pace in the clean air at the moment, and as a result, Boyd just unable to make any inroads at this point. But he's also, I have to say, so far tonight, checking in on him a couple of times, and he's really been looking like he's been racing at the ragged edge of what that car can do. As a little bit of a mistake there for Edwards through the bus stop chicane. Multiple drivers checked up there from this group of 6 fighting over P6 here as we come up to the source once more, and Edwards defensive from McLean again, but surely now McLean will again opt to then straighten her up, get right in the slipstream here to start the lap off, and then set up for the move once we crest the hill at Blanchimont once again, and then make the run down the Kendall Straight. Speaking of which, the lead is on, but let's stay here with the fight for P6 because we've got fighting all over the place. Lutsu and
Bump
Capel
drafting from Lachlan Capel.
You see there, yeah, not opting to put the pressure on into their com. So the top 3 stay as they are. McLean nose ahead of Edwards though again as this trouble back in the com. Melody.
Noble has spun. Noble spinning from third. That has put Tyson Broad up into the top 3. No other cars involved in that, fortunately, but oh dear, it looks like things have all gone wrong for Cameron Edwards. Remember, he was fighting Justin McLean for 6th place. Looks like there's been a coming together there that we've just missed. 2 incidents happening at the same time. We can only get one of them live, so let's have a look at the replay here. Edwards. Oh no, Edwards lost it by himself coming into Lacombe. Fortunately, everyone else avoiding him. But we'll see what happened here to Chris Noble as well. Looks like this was another solo unforced error. Get over the curb, turn in for Malmedy, and oh man, the direction changed. The rears, I think, just got really unstable. He might have caught the curb on entry as well. Either way, that's put Noble all the way back into 4th.
It has, and more importantly for him, it brings him into the clutches ever so slightly. Sean McNamara there in the 951 machine, as he now has someone to hopefully latch, or he'll be hoping to latch onto back of Noble before Noble can get away again. As we've come back to live pitches and checking in with the man who currently sits in P12, Sam Darua, and reminding you that convert the top 12 from these results here to set the grid for the feature. But just ahead of Sam here is this 3-way fight for what I believe is P7 here. P8, Trevor Hearn, Justin McLean, and Kyle Ridley going at it. So actually this is the fight for the front half of this group in P6 once again, as McLean hangs on from Hearn, and it just allows David Hughes and Ben Breyer back into the equation here as they make their way into the source. McLean up the inside though, coming up and defending to the inside, pardon me, Reese, as they come down the hill once more, and pressure is on from every conceivable angle. Meanwhile, race lead on once again. Two-way fight now between these two, and Book opts to give the bump draft to the country. He's not going to be the one to lead here on the penultimate lap. He'll wait for the last opportunity, and he thinks he can get away with it. Meanwhile, McNamara now really applying the pressure to Noble here to get P4 off of the 1-2-2.
And Justin McLean still defending from Trevor Hearn into Lacombe. Hearn's going to go around the outside, which becomes the inside for the left-hander, and he's back up into 6th. Remember, we said a few laps ago that Trevor Hearn would be taking advantage here. Oh no, yeah, Breyer, he's had a big issue. He's falling down, and looks like no one else has been involved in that, at least from what I can see. But unfortunately, Breyer was right on the back of this pack. And,
Chris Noble.
oh yeah, exactly the same as Chris Noble indeed. And wow, he did well to keep it out of the tyre bundles. That car remains undamaged. Well, looks like a lot of drivers falling victim to the rear end getting light over the curb coming into Malmedy, but these two have had no such issues, and they are well clear of Tyson Broad. I'm seeing that it's about 4 seconds back from Lachlan Capel here is Tyson Broad. And Lachlan's going to try and keep the pressure up here on Gianni Lutsu, try and force an error from him and help out his championship leader teammate. See if he goes to the inside in the chicane. No, he won't. Lutsu very staunch on that defense. As there's 2 minutes left on the timer, this is going to be the last lap in race 1. So will Drop Bear be able to get it from Gianni Lutsu? Not too sure, but it's still going on here in the battle for 6th. Hearn is not having any easy times here, trying to get away from this pack. McLean, Ridley and Hughes still right with him, and Hughes has picked up a little bit of damage to his rear wing. Car number 6, Justin McLean, is trying his best to keep Carl Ridley behind him for 7th. Jesse Butler has managed to work his way back up into 13th and looking at 12th as he tries to chase down Neil Woodburn in car 663. Lachlan Capel, meanwhile, past Gianni Lutsu on the outside into Lacombe. That is your new race leader, Capel into P1. Noble still defending from McNamara for 4th place. There's plenty of twisties to come. And have a look at this. This 4-car fight has been nothing short of spectacular. That's going to be Carl Ridley, not able to get past Justin McLean just yet. And is this 12th for Jesse Butler? It is indeed. Passes Neil Woodburn on the racing line where the rubber is in the braking zone for Lacombe. So it's still not over for this race victory here. Lachlan Capel is going to have to get a mammoth exit from Stavolo or Campus Corner and try to stay ahead of Gianni Lutsu, but he'll be looking over his shoulder and fearing that dive at the chicane or potentially even at Blanchimont if Lutsu is feeling brave. We'll have to wait and see. Lutsu will want every single extra point he can get in his fight against Tyson Broad for the championship. And here is where it could be done. Let's see then as they come up to Blanchimont now. Lutsu with a massive slipstream, but he's not going to be able to get past Lachlan Capel here. Now it's time to put the move on. Capel right to the inside. He's going to protect this, but Lutsu's going to try and force the door open and go up the inside. 2 corners to go. Now 1 to go. They're side by side on the way in, and Capel going deep and bumping Lutsu wide. A little bit of a controversial finish there, but Lachlan Capel is going to cross the line in 1st place. Takes the win in race 1. Broad finishes 3rd. Who's going to finish this battle for 6th? Trevor Hearn managing to hold off McLean, Ridley and Hughes. Wow, what a massively active race that was. And Butler, with that pass on the last lap, has gotten himself the pole position for race 2.
Yeah, after a drive-through penalty there for the early contact, Rory Watts able to make the recovery there. Is Butler helped a little bit there by a couple of small mistakes later on the race from other drivers, but still had the pace to make his way through the field and claw back. Time lost, that drive-through imposed on him. And, well, with the field more or less across the line, we can now run you through the results for the end of race number 1 there. And, well, almost half a second ends up being the margin at the line between Capel and Lutsu. And Tyson Broad still a margin back there in P3. Going to have his work cut out by the looks of things in this feature race if he wants to try and minimise the deficit or turn it around to make some gains in the championship coming out of this one tonight. Tyson, he's there in P3. Chris Noble next across the line there in P4 after that slip up at Malmedy, unfortunately there for him, but only loses one place out of it all and able to fend off Sean McNamara, who will have to settle for a P5 finish. And then that group of 6, which ended up becoming 4 at the end of the line there. Trevor Hearn taking it the 6th place, a bit of a recovery drive from him. Good job there, hanging on ahead of Justin McLean, who in turn fends off Kyle Ridley and David Hughes. And then Cameron Edwards, who was in that group early on, but unfortunately unable to make inroads after a small mistake for him, but he'll have to settle and wrap up there with a P10 finish.
He will. 4 positions gained for Sam Darua to get into 11th place, and Jesse Butler will nab race 2 pole with a 12th place finish despite his penalty. Neil Woodburn finishes in 13th with Franz Estebar and the Perth Fork Trucks number 80 just behind him. Ben Breyer and Ray Oliver in 15th and 16th. Then we've got Travis Dynan finishing 41 seconds behind. Brody Watts, how unfortunate for him. That first lap, unfortunately, the incident with Jesse Butler putting him back into 18th position, and he was involved in further incidents on the way through. Same for Nathaniel Coburn and Peter Biancucci, with Barry Punter and Dean Hunt, unfortunately, also suffering issues there. Hunt a lap down on everybody else. Well, no need for the safety car to make an appearance in that one, but we'll see what happens in race 2. We're in the warm-up session at the moment, which means we can get an opportunity to thank our series sponsors here at Southern Cross Esports. V8 Drive Day Perth, Perth's greatest driving experience. They offer rides and hot laps in specially prepared V8 race cars around Wanneroo Raceway. You can be the passenger or the driver in the closest thing you can get to what Australia's best do every weekend. Visit them and book your session at v8driveday.com.au. West Australian Automotive Equipment specialises in everything you need for your workshop, from hand tools to car hoists and everything in between. Better yet, they deliver Australia-wide. Call them on 9303 9068 or head to automotiveequipmentwa.com.au. Over at Word of Mouth Signs, Pip Allen works to provide the best in signs and graphics, doing everything from vinyl wraps for cars, vans, premises, and much more, to even things like laser engraving and graphic design. There's no job too small. Head over to wordofmouthsigns.com.au or call on 0400 551 555. V-Race Experience is Perth's best full-motion simulator experience, located in the heart of Osborne Park. They use Motum simulators, professional hardware, and class-leading virtual reality goggles, so you can race like a pro and get fully immersed. To find out more, go to vrace.com.au. Speaking of Motum simulation, their unique patented TrueMotion technology delivers 6 degrees of freedom in a fully immersive VR environment. Motum delivers simulation solutions across Australia and internationally, working with many leading brands. To learn more about them, head to motumsimulation.com. And of course, tonight's racing wouldn't be possible without 24/7 Sim Services, who are handling race control tonight, an independent provider of live race control, rulebooks, officiating, and more on all sim racing platforms. Check them out at 247simservices.com. All right. This is going to be a fun one, Dan. What can we expect here in this second race? The fact of the matter is, the drivers are going to have to get into the pits to change all 4 tyres at some point. And the pit loss at Spa is not as big as it could be if we were using the full pit lane, but still, you've got to be careful about when you come in.
You will have to be very careful indeed. For those who haven't seen one of these feature races here for the V8 Drive Day Perth Southern Cross Esports Championship Series, pit window for this feature race coming up in a minute and a half's time opens once we get 5 minutes into the race and closes at the 35-minute mark. So half an hour window there. Drivers have to come and take those 4 tyres, as you mentioned. And well, I think based on what we saw there in that sprint race, you're not going to be able to break away from the pack unless, well, sheer pace isn't going to allow you to break away here tonight, it would seem. And, well, only way you're going to get a breakaway happening is due to the way people scrap and fight over whatever spots they can get their hands on. So I think realistically, the play will probably be seeing people come into the pit lane together in groups. And we also know that unless there's a safety car, you will need to wait a little bit before coming in for that pit stop. You can't come into the pits as soon as the pit window opens, at least every other round so far this season, thanks to the setup and fuel tank restrictions in place. 45% tank restriction for this 911 RSR tonight, which means, well, I think I can actually do the numbers on that one here real quick, because if I remember correctly, the tank is 99 litres if you get to access all of it. So 44.5 litres of fuel, Reese, is what they've got access to. Unfortunately, I don't have a fuel burn number for you here, but I would say probably expect people to come in from about the 10-minute onwards mark if they want to be doing a one-stop and full pace strategy here. Although, at the same time, fuel saving could certainly be an option, thanks to the way you'll probably want to stick together and not upset your little pack too much here to stay, well, if you can break away from a group behind, do it that way and have less people to race as the race goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all of that will fall by the wayside for the time being as we go through the starting grid here for Race 2. Pole position is going to be Jesse Butler with Sam Daurua behind him, or alongside him rather. Cameron Edwards is going to start in third place. We'll try to turn around his night from here. David Hughes starts in fourth with Carl Ridley in fifth alongside Justin McLean. Trevor Hearn starts in 7th alongside 9.5 Sim Sports' Sean McNamara, with Chris Noble in 9th, Tyson Broad in 10th place, and rounding out the top 12 is going to be your top 2 from Race 1, Gianni Lutsu and Lachlan Capeldan.
Indeed, it will be. And then your results, as they were in Race 1, are as follows for this grid. Neil Woodburn and Franz Estebauer side by side on row 7, with Ben Breyer and Ray Oliver sharing the 8th row here on the grid. The second race tonight, Travis Steinen and Brody Watts starting out of 17th and 18th. It's Nathaniel Coburn and Peter Biancucci to round out your top 20, and then Barry Punter and Dean Hunt to start on that 11th row to wrap up our racing field here this evening for this one. 22 cars getting ready to roll away. And, well, as we do, an update from Director Jay Kennedy. Fuel burn around Spa is about 3.75 litres per lap for these Porsche 911 RSRs. And, well, plug that back into the fuel calculation, or the fuel tank that's available. We're looking at just under 12 laps of fuel in these cars tonight, Reese. So, a bit of saving, take 12 laps of the tank, and that's when you will need to be able to get home. So, thinking about that, I think we're looking at 2 minute 15 or thereabout, it seems, at the front of the field in clean air.
Yes,
only 7 minutes to a tank is what we should expect once they come into the pits.
All right.
We'll talk about that later, because here comes the green flag. Butler waits and he goes off the corner. We're green here for the feature.
We are indeed. What a brilliant start there for Jesse Butler. Got the lead by more or less a country mile, or as good as such, on the way into La Source. And Cameron Edwards up into second place, take great advantage of the scuffles there in the first corner. But look at the pack behind. Trevor Hearn, Sean McNamara and David Hughes all together, with the drop bear duo just behind them. Capel and Broad trying to find their way through. Gianni Lutsu side by side with Chris Noble. He will get the draft off of Tyson Broad and slot in. But David Hughes is going to have to go defensive here versus Lachlan Capel. Will he be able to stay ahead for the lead? Cameron Edwards really pressuring Jesse Butler as they all come through. Ever so slight contact between Carl Ridley and Sam Daurua. But they manage to work themselves out. Daurua has to check up though, and that is going to potentially allow Trevor Hearn up the inside into Brazil. And that is going to work out well there for the 949. It's such a close pack here. Wide in Brazil was Dean Hunt, has to give up the position to Peter Biancucci. But the field has had a pretty clean lap one so far. I hope I haven't just jinxed it.
You hope not, as into Puon we go with this group of cars here in the mid-pack, and Justin Brook on the outside of Daurua there gets another spot, as Daurua unfortunately is falling through the field like a bit of a Porsche-shaped sack of bricks, unfortunately, as these guys here from the front of the race 1 results come piling on through the top 4 have made it past him now. Derulo back to E11 already. David Hughes looking for the inside at Stavilo corner, and up the inside finishes the job for Paul Frere, and the door open for Ray Oliver as well. It's now a freight train. He continues for the 155 down 11 spots. Meanwhile, further up ahead here, Kyle Ridley trying to fend off Trevor Hearn, but Hearn up the inside before Blanchimont will take that place here as they make their way to the bus stop, and it opens the door to McNamara around the outside of Ridley.
Oh, no!
Ridley, but McNamara late on the brakes there. Reese has to run wide, and in the middle of all this, Cable's up the outside inside of Ridley there, and McNamara has to then also show a bit of a slowdown, I think. Yes, he's got a slowdown to clear off that one there still as he comes across the line to start lap number 2.
Oh, man. Okay, that was a bit chaotic there. So Sam Dalrua finishes the lap in 14th. He's down 12 spots. Lachlan Capel gaining 7. He has the most positions gained out of anyone so far. He's been racing brilliantly tonight, and that is continuing here into the second race, the feature here at Spa. But Jesse Butler leads by half a second from Cameron Edwards, who we ride on board with in the Jasmine Steel Fabrications machine. The number 46 just closing in at the end of the Kemmel Straight. Tyson Broad making a move on Kyle Ridley, and looks like Johnny Lutsu is going to try and follow him through. Unfortunately, outside through the left-hander isn't as easy as through the right-hander, so Lutsu is losing some valuable ground there to Tyson Broad.
Not for long though, as immediately up the inside of Ravage, Bruxelles corner, but he's not got the job done there, Reese. That's a bit unexpected there. I was thinking he'd be able to get that job done. Ridley hangs on for another turn here, at least as they go very wide through no-name Jackie Hicks, whatever you want to call it there. And what that does is it opens up a little bit of a buffer. It won't be enough, I don't think, at this point to see any massive changes. The gap is about 7/10 between Ridley and Tyson Broad, which will still be enough for the slipstream here, but we're still finding his time for the mid-sector. We'll look to be lining this one up, it seems, once we get to the end of the lap with the straight shot down through either before Blanchimont or under brakes at the bus stop. We would think for the number 4 driver there. And up in race 1, he got 5 championship points. Of the 5 points back into the margin on Tyson Broad, but as they currently stand in 7th and 9th, looks like it's going to be out here real quick.
We'll leave you to figure that out, Dan, because there goes Johnny Lutsu.
Yep, very easy done there by Blanchimont. Here comes Chris Noble too, going to try and sneak in this one. With that pass done, it's a 5-point advantage to Tyson Broad, which will nullify the gains made in race 1 if they finish as they are.
Well, it's highly unlikely that they will, as goodness me, that was interesting there at the bus stop chicane. And Lachlan Capel going for 4th now on Justin McLean, just passing him into La Source, and now he's going to try and line up Trevor Hearn to get into the top 3 places. This has been an absolutely mammoth run from Lachlan Capel. He is passing cars left, right and centre on his way up the field. 5 minutes have passed and the pit window is now open. Oh goodness, little bit of contact just about at high speeds down the Kemmel Straight, and here comes Cameron Edwards to try and go for the race lead here on Jesse Butler. Capel manages to get past Trevor Hearn. It almost went all kinds of wrong on the way out of Radion there and through Kemmel. Goodness gracious. Oh dear, Lutsu looked like he was very wide on the exit of Malmedy. He's going to have to stop making those kinds of mistakes, as that's Nathaniel Coburn off at Bruxelles, or Ravage, whichever you want to call it. I think Ravage probably for the sake of consistency, but that is not good there for Nathaniel Coburn. Ran off. McLean, sorry, Luke McLean, my apologies. We'll see here what happened. Got passed up the inside by the number 7 and was sent right off there at the corner. That was Tyson Broad making the move on him, and that could be significant for the championship if race control has seen this incident, trying to go up the inside. Yeah, wow, looks like Broad was just a little bit deep into the corner. You could argue he was squeezed a little bit, but regardless, in the process of making a pass, he sent the other driver off. So race control might be taking a look at that, which could affect this championship.
Yeah, that's going to be one to watch out for indeed. Watching it from a further outboard shot, it did look like it was a bit of a squeeze from McLean under brakes, trying to cover it off, but the overlap was already there. but as a result, Ward's had to go straighter into the corner, and therefore has made contact as McLean's turned in to try and pinch him against the apex curve. So, yeah, as you said, could go either way there, and if it goes against Broad in that particular instance, as the driver obviously making the overtaking, we would generally say that the general responsibility is on the driver overtaking to make sure the path between that indeed is quite important, given that he is directly behind Broad as he has been so far in this race. So any kind of penalty for Broad will be very substantial and significant at this point. But we'll have to wait and see on that as the drivers make their way up over the hill. Meanwhile, it's on for the lead again. Indeed, Cameron Edwards up the inside of Jesse Butler this time with the toe and gets ahead as they enter Lacombe here on lap number 4 and gets himself to the lead after a couple laps of trying. Meanwhile, there's Sean McNamara fighting with Kyle Ridley. Meanwhile, Ray Oliver, Dean Hughes, David Hughes and Brody Wattle going at it here for the back end of the top 10 as we check out another replay of this three-way fight here as they come up and demonstrate thanks to our friends at Virtual Racing School here, Reece.
So on board with Ray Oliver, and it was the pincer move. Ray Oliver got double teamed on either side by these two guys. Goodness gracious, Watts on the left, Hughes on the right, and through they go. Oliver tried to fight it into Lacombe, but unfortunately not able to get up the inside far enough into the left-hander, so he had to yield. But that's the kind of racing you can expect at Spa when you're in a pack like this. Oliver now down to 12th, but he's already up 4 spots, so it's certainly looking like a profitable race too here for the driver of the number 224. Okay, so the first 10 minutes of this race are almost up, and we have had plenty of racing to talk about here. Jesse Butler and Cameron Edwards still in your top 2 positions here. Edwards in first, Butler in second, but have a look at Lachlan Capel just behind them in the blue Drop Bear Motorsport machine. This is going to be quite the drive here from Capel. If he can catch these guys up in the next lap or so, he's definitely within draft range, and if he nails the exit out of La Source, he could get it.
Well, the problem is going to be that Butler's that bit closer to Edwards, which will mean that he's got the substitution, but a slightly rough run off of La Source there does put Capel within a second of your race lead, so half a second back from P2 means he should be picking up some toe. It's just a question of how much does Butler in second pick up, but we'll check in with them a little bit later on, because here at the back of the top 6 is Gianni Lutsu, and look at this here, getting the freight train run. Tyson Broad's had an absolute shocker of a run relative to the group here as they come up the hill down towards Lacombe and Melbourne, and around the outside will go Lutsu, but Broad's still there on the apex, so we're going to go side by side through here, and Broad is unable to hang on to that spot there. He will yield that 6th place, and that now again means that Johnny Lutsu gets points back on Tyson Broad. Look at some more here as more trouble. Sam Derua there along with
Franz Esteban.
Yes, at Lacombe and Melbourne have come unstuck there. Start of lap 5 as we're going to go check that one out on a replay thanks to the Virtual Racing Studio.
All right, so Esteban was leading this pack when this happened. Darua trying up the inside, and oh dear. I think Esteban was expecting him to back out of that one, but he did not. We'll see what it's like on board from the 155 who started this race in second. Looked like a fairly reasonable outbraking move, but Esteban
just brakes,
yeah,
as well.
Yeah, pinched the brakes, was unstable on entry, and to top it off, Esteban turned in almost like he wasn't there. So that's very unfortunate for both of those drivers. They've lost bulk time thanks to that. It looks like Darua is carrying a lot of damage. We missed a pass for the lead while all of that was going on, meanwhile. Jesse Butler has made it back into the front versus Cameron Edwards, and has managed to jet away a little bit because Lachlan Capel was making life difficult for Cam Edwards. And look at that, around the outside, Gianni Lutsu on Trevor Hearn. He's going to make his way past into the chicane. We're going to get another replay here, thanks to VRS. We'll see what happened to Trevor Hearn here. with Gianni Lutsu. I think this might be the mother of all dives up the inside. Hearn leaves the door open and whoa, hello, Lutsu. How on earth did he pull it up from that far back? That's magnificent. Hearn trying to fight it back, but Lutsu getting the power down nicely. Moves up into fourth, and now we'll see what they can do here to try and catch back up to Jesse Butler as we have our first pitter of the race, Sam Daurua, though I doubt that tyres and fuel are the only things he's going to be sorting out here.
Yep, that will be a little bit of damage repair, as you say. And I think a one lap too early to make it home, even with some light fuel. So at least he'd have to do quite substantial fuel saving. As by my numbers, you're going to get 12 laps. You're going to get 12 laps, 13 laps out of a tank. 12 laps out of a tank with a little bit of saving. As meanwhile, Cameron Edwards is now starting to be a bit of a blockage, it seems, in this group here, as Lutsu up the inside of Capel at Puon here to try and get P3 and continue to make inroads on the championship lead that Tyson Broad had coming into tonight. But Capel sticks it around the outside. Meanwhile, Chris Nobles tried to get up the inside of Broad and not been able to make it work further on at the back of the group. So these guys scrapping here, but around the outside of the start of the Fungus chicane. And he gets the job done. So a lot of back and forth between these guys. And critically, Tyson Broad not delivering the pace he needs to keep this championship fight favourable to him, because he's just giving away points at this stage that Lutsu is happily picking up. And it's not much, but it's, I believe at this stage, it's now a 15-point advantage to Lutsu. He picked up 5 in race 1 earlier on. Therefore, that gap that he had coming in tonight has gone from 27 down to just 7. And it could easily increase here, because moving up into P3 will earn Lutsu even more points. He will pick up another 5 points per game if he gets into P3 here, but yeah, indeed, Cam Edwards super deal. Spin!
Oh, Lutsu turned around! And that's going to be Trevor Hearn making contact with him there. That is huge for this event. That is huge for the championship as well. Lutsu falling down to 11th place, and the great irony of that is it happened right as they went by the pits. We're going to ride on board with Trevor Hearn for this one. Very hard fighting there between Edwards and Capel. And let's go down into slow-mo here. Lutsu a bit late on the turn, and he was trying to go for the over-under on Capel. But, unfortunately, that is Hearn taking the normal racing line through the corner and going right into the back of championship second place. So, position has been redressed. So I think the full wrath of race control will not be instated there, but honestly, that is a big dent on Gianni Lutsu's night.
It is indeed. It completely evaporates any gains he was making, and well, turns it back into Tyson Broad's favour, all the way down to what looks to be about 10th place. It's 5 points every place you gain or lose up until you hit P3. And then just getting into 10-point margins. Meanwhile, Broad still under pressure. This time, though, from Sean McNamara at Puon. As they come around the corner, Broad's going to hang around the outside again. And this time, though, he's going to be clear of McNamara as they head down into the Fungus chicane. Chris Noble, not like Chris Noble was the previous lap here, as they come around these bends. And again, Reese, if they're willing to gamble it, now at the end of lap 7 here, they should be good to come into the pit lane, fill up, take their tyres that they need to take as well, and then go flat out to the end. No saving required, but look at the run that McNamara's got here up behind Broad. He's going to go around the outside before we even get to Blanchimont to take this place away from the number 7 machine. Side by side, and it turns out, though, it's a bit of an aero stall as he's pulled out from the toe, so they'll go through the corner together. Space given by both cars. McNamara having to use the curb. Kyle Ridley's thinking about it here. Broad rolls out. McNamara will take the inside and the place here into the bus stop chicane. A bit of defence from Ward as Ridley tried to think about it, but no, he won't. Brody Watts, the first one for the lead, come down to the pits here in the opening phases of the race, but he is joined by what looks to be, no, not just a McLean, Gianni Lutsu will follow him in, and Trevor Hearn have followed in Lutsu. So the first 3 drivers to take a scheduled pit stop in this race from the front of the field, at least as we check back in with the 2nd, 3rd, 4th place group in here trying to chase down Butler, who's checked out to a 2-second lead.
Yeah, Jesse Butler looks pretty untouchable at this point. He is broken free of the draft, and so Lachlan Capel is not able to catch up to him. He's under a lot of pressure from Cameron Edwards. We were going to try and have a mid-race chat with Cam, but I think he's a little bit busy at the moment. Got his hands full with a potential third place on the line here, even second place if he can get past Lachlan Capel again. But goodness gracious, what a race it's been so far. This night's had pretty much everything. Looks like Lutzu is out of his pit box, so is Brody Watts and Trevor Hearn. Barry Punter's also come into the pits just behind these guys, and he's still getting his service done, but he'll get it done in the next 10 seconds or so. It's looking like a roughly 38 to 39 second stop time for these guys. Lane time somewhere in the vicinity of 57 to 59 seconds. So those are the numbers that these guys further up the front will have to try and match. Tyson Broad looking at a top 5 here, but Sean McNamara has put on some fantastic performance here to get into that 5th place. They're not going to be able to catch up much to the drivers ahead though. Edwards and Noble are still battling over 3rd place, and occasionally they're bringing Lachlan Capel into the fold too, but they are way ahead of these guys. They're effectively having their own race at the moment. What can Tyson Broad do here? Picking up the draft out of Blanchimont. McNamara sticks to the inside in the bus stop chicane, stays middle of the road, and that's not going to be a move there for Broad. I thought for a moment he was going to go for the pits, but it looks like he's going to try and commit here to a late stop.
And it would seem that, well, apart from the 3 drivers of Watts, Lutzu and Hearn taking the early stop, no one at the front's gambling on that just yet, as they all make their way around the source and down the hill. And, well, bit of clutch kick there from Broad that time round into the bus stop. Not looking to pressure McNamara too much at this point, but do note that McNamara is teammates of Gianni Luke and will certainly be trying to do what he can to hold back Broad here and minimise the damage that's been done in this race for Luke as we come down the straight. You can see there, Broad is not even thinking about a pass. He's rolled out so early there, and then a bit of clutch kick for good measure at the end of the straight. Meanwhile, Justin McLean and Dean Hunt, next 2 drivers down to take their compulsory pit stop in this race.
Let's see who wins the battle off pit road there. Justin McLean pitting about 9 seconds before Hunt did, so he should still keep this position. Off the jacks he comes, all 4 tyres on. Trevor Hearn will make his way past on track, having already completed his pit stop. And that's some nice momentum for Hearn out of La Source. And it makes sense that both Hearn and Lutzu pitted when they did, basically a lap after they had their coming together at the bus stop chicane. Once something like that happens, you might as well come into the pits and get your service done and try your best to set some good laps to the end.
And a little wobble there for McNamara as we're checking them out here through the Fungus chicane. A bit too much curb usage there from the 951 machine as they then come through Stabilo and Paul Frere for the run to Blanchimont. Is this maybe the time that Ward thinks about a pit stop here if he's not going to get held up? Of course, the problem is if you come in early, you then exchange the maybe some gains through the twisty parts. We're going to check out that little wobble here for McNamara on board with the 951 to get up on the curb and just gets over the curb too much. And as a result, the car almost breaks away and then gets a wobble on the exit of the second part of the chicane as well. But I want to hang on to it there. You can see gets up onto the dirt part there. Reese and has to do a little bit of a opposite lock in both parts of the chicane for good measure. But my pitches, they haven't changed places, and none of them have yet to come to the pit, so they are going to go long, it seems, and get the fresh tyres on as late as they can in this one. As we have crossed the halfway mark in this race, and this is the man who is the leader of those who pitted, Brody Watts. You can see 55 seconds behind your race lead. He's in a pretty decent spot there. With the transit time, as you said, around 57 seconds at the moment. Not too far off the leader. All said and done in that case. Nathaniel Coburn, the next man, will take his compulsory stop in this race out of P12.
Looks like Cameron Edwards has fallen out of the top 3 meanwhile, with Chris Noble making a move at the end of the Kimmel Straight. So Mr. Edwards is going to try his best to hold on here. The top 3 pretty spaced out there. This is how Noble did it, up the inside and trying to widen the turn in as much as possible. That looked like a textbook outbreaking move into the Lacombe chicane. Into the pits, meanwhile, comes Nathaniel Coburn, who we saw having some issues earlier with Tyson Broad coming into the descending right-hander. There's been no penalty from race control concerning that incident. I think they determined it was a racing incident on lap 1. We'll keep with Tyson Broad, Lachlan Capel here as he tries to chase down Jesse Butler for the race lead. 1.1 seconds behind, and he's just almost within draft range here. And when I say draft range, on iRacing, you start getting slipstream effects from the car in front when you're about 1.5 seconds behind, but it gets really strong once you get to within a second. And have a look at that. Capel is within a second. He's starting to gain infinitesimal amounts coming down these long, flat-out sections. Will he decide to come into the pits? No, but Jesse Butler will.
Well, there we go. Opting for an earlier stop into lap 10 there for Butler in the 3:49. This will be crucial to see here how this affects the order of things, as he's followed in by Chris Noble and Cameron Edwards, and where they come out in relation to Brodie Watts as the leader of those who has pitted. McNamara goes on through with Tyson Broad, so it is now Capel, McNamara, Broad, and Kyle Ridley is out there as well, just behind that group. And then Ray Oliver a couple of seconds further on back as jump on board with the number 2 machine. He's here currently in P12 and currently has about 2.5 seconds back to Gianni Luke 2. It's going to be important, of course, as well for the leaders of the race. He's coming into Blanchimont, and Butler's already 27, 28 seconds on his pit stop here. He's got about...
Noble might be in some trouble here. Only a 15-second pit stop time. He hasn't taken tyres. That is a big old rule break right there. You're supposed to take 4 tyres in a pit stop, so that has ruined Chris Noble's night. Meanwhile, they all come out of the pits here. Jesse Butler coming out in the effective race lead. Cameron Edwards out in effective second, but Brodie Watts going to slot into effective second right there, and made up some really good time with that earlier pit stop just 3 laps ago.
And look where Gianni Lutsu is.
Look where Gianni Lutsu is indeed.
Net P4, and indeed only still around 2 and a bit seconds off of the... just about with the race leader. He's only 7 seconds off of Butler at this stage. So, yeah, sure, he got spun, but 7 seconds, yeah, we've got Capel, McNamara, Broad, and maybe Kyle Ridley to squeeze in there as well amongst that group of cars. That will be in and around that bunch. That still only puts Lutsu down in probably about P7, maybe even P6, once the order sorts itself out. And it's going to come down to where McNamara and Broad end up, because they've not been pushing. They're both doing high 2-minute 15s at the moment, whereas like Lutsu is doing a second a lap faster than the pair of them.
Well, in comes Lachlan Capel. Will McNamara and Broad follow him in? Yes, they will.
They might just have hit the end of the fuel tank, I suspect, based on the carbon fuel.
Yep, they've run the tank out, and they'll just put in a little bit extra to make it to the end. All right, so Jesse Butler just exiting campus and going through Paul Frere curve now. He should come back out in the race lead. He had it by quite some margin.
Broad never shot his pit
cycle
box.
started on. No, has he? Broad, unfortunately, that's going to cost him a couple of seconds. That could cost him positions here. Could put him behind Gianni Lutsu. We'll have to wait and see. Chris Noble is going to go through into the race lead, but remember, he hasn't completed his mandatory pit service, so he's going to be penalised at the end of this one. So, we wait for the drivers to complete their stops. Lachlan Capel is the first of them away. He's going to come out nice and gently there, and in front of Jesse Butler.
That's a fantastic in-lap there. Despite not having the slipstream, he will get ahead of Butler there for the effective lead. Meanwhile, here's that group of cars, as I was saying, and look at Gianni Lutsu. He's going to clear McNamara and Ridley. Tyson Broad has dropped in behind in net P8. There you go.
Man.
P5 on the road, effectively. for Gianni Lutsu. He's been able to turn that around with some absolutely rapid pace, and look at that for Broad. He's been absolutely dumped thanks to that error in the pit lane. He will watch him now drop like a fly. We saw it in the sprint race. He had no pace in clean air, and I expect we'll see him drop away like an absolute stone here now that he's dropped the toe of the group here once again in the feature. Disappointing, to say the least. He's now making it all the more work for him going into the final round. There's going to be nothing in it between him and Lutsu.
Yeah, that is dramatic there as Dean Hunt and Ben Breyer exchanging spots there for 15th place. Breyer going around the outside into Lacombe and now leaving Hunt behind. Meanwhile, Brodie Watts is having to face off here against the freshly pitted Cameron Edwards. Tell you what, I think it's just as well we haven't really had a chance to talk to Cam here tonight because, man, he has had his hands full. He's been involved in a battle every single time we've looked in on him here in race 2. Let's see if he can pull off 4th place here, but he certainly won't be dissatisfied with a P5. Have a look at Gianni Lutsu, though, as he drags along Sean McNamara and Kyle Ridley. He'll just be getting a little bit of slipstream from Gianni Lutsu, but he might be in trouble here with McNamara. Check back at them. Could this be a move here? The 951 on the number 4. We'll have to wait and see. Will it be a move for Cameron Edwards on Brodie Watts? Watts is going to go defensive here into the bus stop chicane. Edwards is late on the brakes as he possibly can, and Lutsu defending from McNamara behind. It is now a 5-car train. And there's Chris Noble once again in the lane, getting his tyres done. So that is a huge shame for Noble. He would have been on for a top 5 here were it not for that error. Now, he's had to do 2 pit stops, where everyone else has had to do just 1. So, this is the battle for 3rd now.
See, down the hill they come to all correctly on order now. And we jump on board with McNamara. Up over Orouge and Radion, right in behind teammate Lutsu here. As up ahead of them, Brodie Watts. Was that Cameron Edwards, pardon me, going... No, it's... Cameron Edwards ahead of Brodie Watts, but here comes Lutsu.
Oh!
To the inside of Watts. Can't make it, but he forces an error out of Watts.
Oh.
Lutsu and McNamara go on through, and Kyle Ridley to boot. It was not really on, but he forces Watts into the narrow entry to the comp, and up to P4 for the number 4. More championship points gained as Broad unable to, well again, Broad's just too far back and unable to be with this group here, although he is a little closer than I thought, and with Watts slotting in now ahead, that will give him half a chance to get sort of an intermediary slipstream here as we check it all out again on the replay thanks to Virtual Racing School here.
So Lutsu tries to force one up the inside, and yeah, I mean, what could Brodie Watts really do there? He had Edwards on his outside, Lutsu on his inside. It would have had to have been a very exact line into the corner there for him. Nothing being done there that was worth a penalty, but certainly he won't be too happy with how things have worked out for him there. So now Lutsu is looking at 3rd here with Edwards now leading the train. Sean McNamara, Kyle Ridley, Brodie Watts still there just behind, but Tyson Broad is being dragged into this as well. We've still got 10 minutes to go in this race, and this battle could go either way. Here comes Lutsu then, trying around the outside, into the chicane, late on the brakes. What will Edwards do here to try and keep him behind? It's going to make him go narrow here, and we'll have the inside for La Source. Could give half a chance to Sean McNamara to get up the inside. Will the door open for him, though? Probably not. Oh, here we go. Racing line there for McNamara, and Lutsu squeezing up the inside of Edwards. Edwards goes wide out of La Source and back into 6th. Oh, okay. He's still with them. He's still with them. This battle's going to keep going. We won't go to a replay yet because, my goodness, this is still on side by side between Edwards and Ridley in Radion, and they make contact side by side. Ridley having to back out of that one. Edwards will have gotten a slowdown penalty, though, I'd gather, and he's going to have to let those guys go.
He does indeed, my word. Elbows out in the final 10 minutes of the race. Does finally bring some reprieve with Tyson Broad because he now is only 3 cars behind Gianni Lutsu, but Lutsu promoting himself into a podium spot with all of that said and done. And that just means, again, 15. Oh, Ridley, unfortunately, unstuck at Lacombe. Melody loses another spot as we go to the replay to see what's happened here as they come down the straightaway here. So at the back of the group in the 27 machine, they said having been dispatched by that hip check there, Edwards on the outside slows down to get his slowdown cleared, and then looks like he's getting a solo mistake here, you'd think, from the 27. Yeah, up on the curb, car overrides, and oh dear, finds the tyre bundle nose first there at Lacombe.
There's half a chance he might have gotten a little bit of suspension damage from that contact with Edwards too, but that'll have to wait for another time there as Tyson Broad having to give up a place there to Brodie Watts, or
trying to get
rather,
the place
yeah, trying to get the place. Yeah, Watts is going defensive on him here. But Broad is already on the light flash here and sending a message in Morse code to Brodie Watts, something along the lines of, "Hey mate, I'd like your place, thank you very much. Look at me as I go in the slipstream up towards Blanchimont. Not going to go for the... Oh, yeah, he is going to go for the inside of Blanchimont. Hello. Let's see how this works out for him here. Watts is going to be defensive coming into the bus stop chicane. How brave is Tyson Broad on the brakes? Evidently not brave enough to go round the outside into the final couple of corners.
Looks to be about to set up an execution there. Opts for a... And he gets on the radio to get Brodie to stop defending. Tyson's priority number one is catch McNamara and Lutsu if you can. Don't worry about taking one spot off of a board now, Watts now. Think about the big game here, and so Tyson's just going to back that message up now over the radio with an actual bump draft down the Kemmel here. Don't pull out from behind, just push Watts' car down the straightaway here. Watts goes defensive, just follow him and just push. As you see here, the push likewise happening, it's seen between McNamara and Lutsu, and indeed, those two, I don't expect them to be changing places anytime soon, given they're both from the 9.5 Sim Sports stable. And push looks to be on now between Watts and Broad. Meanwhile, checking on in a bit further on back here, Dean Hunt and Ben Breyer currently back in 15th to 16th.
These guys were battling before, weren't they?
They're scrapping away once again here as Breyer. Oh, a late under brakes at Lacombe here from the 58 machine, but Hunt with the better apex speed, although it was on the outside, gets the second half of Lacombe sorted out and keeps his spot through Malmedy there. But, well, there's a warning sign if ever I've seen one. Meanwhile, Tyson Broad's gotten through to P5 on Brodie Watts in the middle of the lap there, so deciding that after the push down the straight, that wasn't enough, and he's better off being the leader of the pair. Let's see how it goes here. So, down to Malmedy getting closer, and then he's going to send it to Rivage. No, so it looks to be after Durham, or... there we go.
Okay, right.
Watts finds the marbles.
Yeah, either that or he decided to go a bit wide on purpose, potentially. Not too sure how that worked out, but either way, Tyson Broad has been released, and we'll see what kind of times he can put down here to try and catch up with Lutsu and McNamara ahead. There's only 5 minutes to go in the race, plus one lap maybe, depending on when they cross the start-finish line. So, plenty more to come here, and they're still fighting hard over 10th. David Hughes, Justin McLean and Kyle Ridley here as Hughes goes defensive on the way into the bus stop. McLean trying his best to get up the inside, fails unfortunately, and that gives half a chance to Ridley. 5 minutes to go now. The pit window is now closed. They got Chris Noble coming up behind them as well. If they keep battling like they are, Noble could be looking at a top 10 salvaged from this race. But for the time being, it's advantage David Hughes as Ridley and McLean can't seem to get out of each other's hair.
Yeah, they're going to scrap, it seems, all the way to the end of this one here as we check back in with the third, fourth pairing here of Lutsu McNamara, and indeed pushing each other along. The board has been able to maintain a half-second margin here since passing Brodie Watts, it seems, so clearly has something over the number 2 here for now, and might be beneficial, but to try and catch up with the guys ahead. But given the pace we've seen out of Lutsu all night long, indeed, Broad matching Lutsu's pace, he's going to need to find something miraculous at this point to close down the gap to the pair of 9.5 cars ahead. Meanwhile, Breyer and Hunt at it again, Reese.
Oh my
this
God.
time, it's positions reversed, as it were, left side, right side of the track. Speaking Hunt hangs on for one more sequence of corners, and he will hang on through Ravage again. So going at it, and this time Roya not able to get around the outside, take the place. So we have to try another way. It seems as we check in with Peter Biancucci and friends, Esteban, the next pair behind Hunt and Brea, also scrapping over their spots. Here's 17th and 18th as they come down into Ravage. Big lock from Biancucci there. Opens door for Esteban, but they're going to end up side by side. Brunone, and Esteban will back out to take a better run, he hopes, down the hill to Puon and try again another time.
Well, the flat-out carts entry of Biancucci versus Perth Fork Trucks of Esteban. Very clean battle that's been going on so far, despite that big lock-up from Biancucci. We'll see how they work out at the end. Meanwhile, Broad and Watts still fighting as Edwards and Oliver are now together for 7th and 8th. Cameron Edwards trying desperately to hold on to something here. We'll see what Ray Oliver did to complete the move here down at the chicane. He was on the outside. No, he didn't get it, unfortunately. My apologies, but he did have a red-hot go at it. Unfortunately, overshooting just slightly, so Edwards was able to keep the position. You see how Ray Oliver was struggling there with the rear on the way out. There's the view into one of the most magnificent corner sequences in motorsports, flat out on the way up the hill. That is fantastic. I love watching cars go through that complex. Doesn't matter if it's F1, GT, doesn't matter if it's Volkswagen Fun Cup or Citroen 2CVs. It's always a magnificent sequence. Here is the battle once again for 10th. David Hughes has not been able to get away from Kyle Ridley and Justin McLean, and Ridley is going to go up the inside at Lacombe, but Hughes taking advantage around the outside. He's going to keep that place and gives half a chance here to McLean. Will be able to get it done on the outside. It will be interesting, but it does seem that they're going to sort themselves out here. We're not certain on whether it's the white flag lap just yet. Lachlan Capel is currently coming around Stavilo, and it looks like he is going to get the white flag this time by. So we will have one more lap to go after this one is completed. There is Lachlan Capel leading by 8 seconds over Jesse Butler. I mean, what an incredible drive it's been from Lachlan Capel to make up those positions early on in the race after starting down in 12th, thanks to the grid invert. And he's just been unstoppable ever since, hasn't he?
He has, and pardon me, so say, yeah, he's just gotten to the front and just checked out, it seems, as he takes the white flag quite comfortably so, and now into La Source for the final time for him. Well, he was here potentially to play rear gunner for Tyson Broad, but clearly showing that he brought the pace tonight to, not really be in a position to play rear gunner. What he can do at least is take points away from Gianni Lutsu somewhat at this point. But final lap begins. Shouldn't be a fight for P3 given it's two teammates. There's another car down on pit lane late in the race. Chris Noble again. With a black flag from iRacing.
Oh, that might be for exceeding the incident limit.
It is indeed, because there's nothing in the chat from manually issued by Race Control. So unfortunately, Chris Noble pushing the incident limit of 25 points too far here, and one lap too soon to boot. As you see, P3, it's not a fight. Two teammates here, and McNamara knows exactly what his job is. Wrap this one up. It's to guard Lutsu best he can. Tyson Broad has got already wants the company, but able to hang on to P5 for now. And then Cameron Edwards and Ray Oliver, our second scrap here inside the top 10. Keep our eyes on in the last lap here as they come down through Ravage. Like it's advantage Edwards for now, but guess we'll have to wait and see, because slip up could change that. But a little bit rough run through No Name there, a bit too much curb, I'd say, for Oliver, hurting his run down to Puon in that particular point. And then further on back race, of course, Dean Hunt, Brent Brea still going at it here for 14th.
Yeah, these guys can't leave each other alone, can they? Just a fantastic fight that's been going on between them all through this race. But The real big fight was in the opening laps when Lachlan Capel made up all of those positions to put himself in prime spot to go into the race lead, and pitting a lap later than Jesse Butler. So through the last couple of corners he comes, and it is going to be 2 from 2 for Drop Bear Motorsport and Lachlan Capel here in the V8 Drive Day Southern Cross Esports Championship Series, round 7 at Spa-Francorchamps. It's still not over. Meanwhile, Tyson Broad and Brody Watts fighting over it for 5th place. It looks like Tyson Broad is just going to beat Watts to the line, maybe by... Oh, yeah, he is. Only just. Wow. Okay.
Brody Watts beat him.
Watts was ahead. Watts was ahead by 0.03 of a second. My God. Let's have another look at that. It was a great run off the bus stop there for Brody Watts, and a little bit of contact on the way through. I think we might have to get a line side view of that, because gosh darn.
Forcing Broad in too deep, trying to cover off the spot through the final part of the chicane. And funnily enough, it's actually caused my third-party timing to declare that Broad finished ahead of Watts. But in-game, it tells all, and from that angle there, it's a bit rough, but we can just see there Watts' nose a fraction ahead, and takes that place away, and well, that's just more championship pain. As a result, 15 points lost for Tyson Broad after losing another 5 in race number 1. He goes into the championship finale in the lead, but he will have literally nothing to work with when it comes to points to defend the championship title at the end of the races in 3 weeks' time. But let's walk you through the race results for the feature race here from Spa tonight. And indeed, after getting that pit stop complete, Lachlan Capel walks away by 8.8 seconds over Jesse Butler, who did a good job there to recover after a bit of the chaos in race number 1 for him in the 349 machine. But a relatively quiet second half of that race to finish in P2. Gianni Lutsu able to snatch up spots despite being spun in the opening quarter of the race to P3, with Sean McNamara covering him to come home P4. And Brody Watts, as we said, they're sneaking in ahead of Tyson Broad for P5 and P6 respectively, and eliminating even more of that championship gap that was already pretty slim coming into things tonight given the points on offer. But well, it is now down to literally nothing for the final races, I should say, of the season in a couple of weeks' time. Cameron Edwards, they're able to hang on to P7, and in fact, actually, issues for Kyle Ridley at the end of that one. No, pardon me, no, my apologies, getting that wrong. Cameron Edwards was fighting with Ray Oliver, but as you can see, they're able to gap Oliver in the final couple of laps there. Reese, Trevor Hearn, another second and a half back in P9. A bit of an up and down day for him, and then David Hughes, next of the group there that we were watching there, comes home P10 ahead of Kyle Ridley, who we'll see across the page here in a moment.
Indeed we will. And finishing behind Ridley was Justin McLean. Neil Woodburn coming home in lucky 13th after starting there. Dean Hunt, with a good move through the field from 22nd to 14th, beats Ben Breyer, who finishes where he started in 15th. Nathaniel Coburn makes up 3 spots and is the last car to finish on the lead lap despite his issues. Unfortunately, Franz Estebauer a lap down. Chris Noble is the same. He did not clear that black flag that we saw him try to serve at the end of the race. Peter Biancucci was battling with Estebauer when we last checked in on him. And Barry Punter will also come home a lap down too. Sam Daurua, our sole retirement from the race, with Travis Dynan not taking the start. That was a big shame for Sam Daurua. If it weren't for that bit of contact that he suffered, he might have been on for a really good result after starting in second. Well, we're going to wrap things up here with our driver interviews, and I think the first one we got to talk to is our double winner here tonight, Lachlan Capel. Well, Lachlan, joining up with the series a bit late on, but certainly you've got the pace to have been competing for the championship.
Yeah, I mean, I give it all to Tyson because he was the one who got me into the series and allowed me to paid the entry for me, being a very nice person. So I thought I'd have a shout at it and did pretty well.
Indeed, you did. Take us through what happened in the opening laps of race 2, because you were just making up bulk positions. Was it to do with the setup, how strong it was in the slipstream?
I mean, because it was a reverse top 12, I knew there were a couple slower guys that weren't exactly on the pace that me and Gianni had at the start, so I kind of just looked for gaps, and they appeared quite nicely in times. I mean, I didn't full force my way through like I know a couple other people did, but I mean, I just had a look at gaps. They appeared, I went for it. They worked. It was a bit hectic as well because people were checking each other up, tripping over each other, but still managed to get up with the pack. And then I had a thought about fuel saving, but didn't really do much. So, yeah, it wasn't too hard to get through them, but certainly had to be choosy on where you could overtake.
Yeah, indeed. Well, considering that your entry already confirmed for this series, can we expect you at Mount Panorama, and will you be helping Tyson Broad to try and secure this title?
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. Obviously, I want to see how we go, but if Tyson's got the pace, then I'll full on help him out and see if he can get up there and finalise the championship win.
Well, we'll see how that works out for you guys. Before we let you go, Lockie, anyone you'd like to thank?
Just like to thank all the guys over at Drop Bear Motorsport and their sponsors of Encozy Quality Engineering Solutions, Sam Blacklock Media, Hybrid Racing Solutions, and Revolution Race Gear. I'd also like to thank my dad at Computer Technology Corporation for sponsoring me throughout my racing journey, and I'd also like to thank SimSpeed and their broadcast that they did tonight. I reckon it was a good watch, and I'll have a watch over it again tomorrow.
All right, thanks very much, Lachlan Capel, for joining us. Double winner here tonight. Second on the road was Jesse Butler in race 2, despite a penalty in race 1. Dan's going to have a chat to him about that.
I will indeed. And as Reese mentioned there, a bit of an up and down heat race to start tonight off for you, Jesse. Sort of anything from that one you want to sort of talk us through, sort of thoughts on sort of what happened there in that opening race incident?
Good question. I still haven't actually had a proper look at it. It kind of it is what it is. I think I just tried to stick my nose up there, and I think there wasn't much room given, but I could be wrong. I didn't even have a look at the replay yet.
Well, it was maybe a bit 50-50, and unfortunately Brody coming unstuck there, getting a penalty for you, but you're able to turn it around very impressively, get yourself back up to P12, and then that gave you that front row start for the feature race. And well, in the end, P2 wasn't quite where you started this one off tonight, but able to make a good job with clean air early on, and then clean air in the second half of the race. Was there any sort of pressure you felt during that second one there with the guys trying to come through from further on back on the grid?
Particularly, I knew they had a bit better pace than myself, but there was a moment when I was battling with Cam, and I got back past him, and I realised there was a bit of an opportunity whilst those guys were having a bit of a battle that I could try and get a bit of track behind me. And yeah, it kind of paid off. I was able to keep that gap with Lachlan for a bit. Had a bit of a blunder in the pits, which cost me, and then that kind of second half kind of just eased it back in a bit.
Yeah, fair enough indeed. Like I just said, I do notice that slightly longer in the pit stop, but yeah, able to come home a pretty happy and healthy P2 in that feature race. 3 weeks until the season finale at Bathurst. Should we be expecting you to race? And if you are going to be able to race, any thoughts on that combination here to wrap up this season here with Southern Cross Esports?
Yeah, I'll definitely be there. Already got the rego paid and everything for it. It's the RSR is my favourite car on the service. That's why one of the reasons why I'm in here. And Bathurst, you're not Australian if you don't love Bathurst, so it's just going to be an awesome race regardless of the result. It's just always great to get out on track at Bathurst in the RSR.
Well, there we are. Before we let you go, Tyson, pardon me, Jesse. Yeah, I'm looking at other names. Apparently getting all kinds of crisscross. Who would you like to thank for that second place result there in the feature tonight?
I'd just like to thank Mac1 eSports, just always having each other's backs. It's always been great to be a part of the team. Arcade Simulations, Ingram's Automotive. It's just a pleasure to have you guys on the car and supporting us throughout. But yeah, and you guys for broadcasting that, and everyone doing at Southern Cross, doing the series. It's been great.
There we are. Jesse Butler, second place in the feature race from Spa tonight. And that leaves one final driver to chat to from the podium. The man also second place in the championship still, but only just, Johnny Litsu with Reese standing by.
Indeed, we're going to have a chat to Tyson Broad shortly after as well. Gianni, it was a reasonably good night for you, and I think that's a bit of an understatement. A second and a third is fantastic, and considering the poor luck for Tyson Broad this time around, looks like that championship gap has been eliminated almost.
Yeah, 100% Reece, thank you. Yeah, it was a pretty good night in the office tonight. Yeah, obviously some of the other boys, like Lockie, had quite a bit of pace on us tonight. You know, he was quite really fast, and yeah, even Jesse was quite fast as well. So tops to them. But yeah, no, second and the third is really good, and yeah, it was a little bit unfortunate what happened in the second race there. We yeah got a little tap from the behind in the last chicane. But yeah, we managed to get back up there, and yeah, it's around 7 points I've heard in the championship, so it's pretty close. So yeah, we know what Bathurst was like, what happened last season. So anything can happen. But yeah, no, really good night tonight. It was good few battles, and yeah, always good to show the pace, which is always fun.
Yeah, well, you did touch on briefly that incident between yourself and Trevor Hearn in race 2. What do you think was the key to trying to get that gap back after the incident?
Well, after that happened, I said to myself straight away, I'm just going to pit in, because, you know, there's no point me trying to battle my way back through the pack. Because obviously, yeah, there was like a 5-car train up a few seconds, and yeah, they were sort of from 4th to 8th or whatever it was. And I just said, yeah, I'm going to box this lap and just, yeah, get myself out in clearer air and just churn out the laps and see where I end up when they all pit. And yeah, it seemed to work. I got ahead of that whole sort of train there, and yeah, then obviously I had Sean there with me, and yeah, no, he was just focusing on pushing a gap with me, and yeah, it worked out in the end. So yeah, it was a good call from me, and yeah, no, it all worked out in the end. So that's what matters.
Indeed. Well, hopefully we get another chance to talk to you when we come around to Mount Panorama. Anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, 100%. So big thanks to Racecraft as always. Big thanks to Johnny. And yeah, big thanks to all of our sponsors. Couldn't be here without them. And yeah, looking forward to the last round. It should be pretty exciting. As I said, it was pretty spicy last year. It's where the championship fell away. So hopefully the luck can turn this year, and yeah, we'll see where we end up. But yeah, big thanks to all my supporters. Yeah, I couldn't be here without them, and thanks to Sean for all the assisting tonight. And yeah, we'll come back stronger in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, let's see then. That was Gianni Litsu there. And to finish off our driver interviews tonight, Dan Yeaman's going to have to chat to championship leader Tyson Broad, but not by as much as when we came into this race tonight.
No, it is closed down from 27 points to just 7 points going into the finale at Bathurst. Tyson, there's going to be 180 points on the line for whoever can get the maximum 180 points on the line at that final round. Given that, I mean, the pace didn't look like it was quite there tonight. Sort of, did it feel like you were a little bit off the pace compared to everyone else that you were trying to race here tonight? At least the guys who are finishing a couple of spots ahead of you.
Well, I mean, it definitely didn't help that I'm feeling a bit under the weather tonight. But yeah, I felt as though my pace was quite good. It's just yeah, race 1 just kind of drifted off the draft pack, and then sort of a similar story in race 2, just kind of drifted off the main pack, which prevented me from getting the double podium.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you did a good job there to get P3 in the first race. Starting from P6 in that opening group was definitely a highly contested group. Second race there, I saw a small mistake in the pit lane from you. That looked like it cost you a good second or two compared to the guys that you would have wanted to be racing with. You almost got them back there, but strong attack from Brody Watts at the end of the second race. You unfortunately lost a spot there, which was worth 5 points, championship speaking, but every point looks like it's going to count from here on out.
Yeah, well, I mean, that pit stop mistake pretty much cost me a good chance at the podium because had I not messed up the pit stop, it would have meant that I'd merged right with that battle pack between Lutzu, Cam, and all the others that were in that pack. And then, yeah, obviously, once I managed to work my way through most of it, Brody decided that he was going to fight for position rather than try and catch up to Gianni and that 9.5 car in front of me. And that pretty much cost us a chance at the podium as well.
I mean, yeah, it's true. I mean, at the same time, you again, those two guys ahead, they're teammates at 9.5 Sim Sports, so they were certainly working together from the moment they came out of the pits together. It was going to be a hard task for you to make it stick, or make inroads there, given the power of the slipstream here at Spa. But eyes forward to Bathurst in 3 weeks, given what happened last time out in the Summer Series. Certainly know that the potential there. We hopefully don't want to see a repeat of that, but any thoughts on the combination and what you'll be looking to bring to the track and the car for that one there?
Well, I mean, I hope lap 1 goes a bit better in the second race. I mean, going upside down, and yeah, hopefully we don't see that at the start. But yeah, my pace around Bathurst last time out was quite good, so hopefully I get over whatever I've got, and yeah, hopefully I'm back to full fitness for Bathurst.
Well, before we let you go, Tyson, P3 in race 1, who would you like to thank for that result there, briefly here?
SimSpeed for the broadcast. They do a really good job of showing off the series. Series organisers for putting on a great series. And also Drop Bear Motorsports and all their sponsors for all the support.
Well, there we are. P3 in race 1, P6 in race 2, and now, as I was saying there, Reese, just 7 points in it, going into our final round of the championship. Here are your updated standings following the racing action from tonight, and indeed, it is going to be a two-way fight for this one here. 180 points is still on the line, and well, actually, technically, that means... Actually, no, pardon me, that... Am I actually...
160.
Am I reading it right and saying it?
No.
180... 79 points is currently the margin between Trevor Hearn and Tyson Broad. So hypothetically, Trevor is within championship contention, but he needed a perfect round, and I believe, looking at the point scheme, it would require another two to not race. So given we know that those... Tyson and Gianni are definitely scrapping for the fight. I think realistically, yeah, we can say, unfortunately, Trevor will be racing there for P3 in the title, but you can see there further on back, Kyle Ridley leaps ahead of Mike Pepper thanks to a no-show there for Mr. Pepper tonight. He could come under pressure from Cameron Edwards and maybe even Ray Oliver with a good round for those drivers. And Anthony Jewell, a bit of a left of field option there. And again, also Jewell not attending this evening's race. You were down a few racecraft cars for this one here, Reese, but sets us up for a fantastic duel to the finish in 3 weeks' time at the Mountain.
Indeed. Next round, the 8th round at Bathurst. It's going to be happening on the 14th of September at 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern. That is 6:30 p.m. Australian Western time. Don't miss it. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be an absolutely epic way to finish off this season. Porsche 911 RSRs at the Mountain. What can you say? It's also the same week as the V8 Scops Bathurst 1000, so it's going to be all Bathurst in that week in September. So make sure that you join us here on SimSpeed TV, and if you want notifications on when broadcasts are going up, make sure to subscribe to us here on YouTube, and also make sure to like us on our socials. We're SimSpeed Esports Network on Facebook, and we are at SimSpeed TV on Twitter. One more time, we want to thank the sponsors here at Southern Cross Esports, V8 Drive Day Perth, of course, along with West Australian Automotive Equipment, Word of Mouth Signs, V-Race Experience, Modem Simulation, and a big thanks to 24/7 Sim Services for handling race control tonight. I'm Reese Gardner, it's Dan Yeaman alongside me in the commentary box, and Jay Kennedy on production. From all of us here at SimSpeed TV, bye for now, but certainly not forever.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?